Well, hey guys, it's Thor Sandalwood, and today is May 3rd, 2021. And the headline that I saw just a few hours ago, I just had about 4 or 5 hours to prepare this presentation and video for you guys, was that Bill and Melinda Gates announced that they're getting divorced. And so what I was going to do is we're going to look at the astrology because, I had to look at his chart and confirm everything that was going on. But we're going to look at Bill Gates' chart. I don't have Melinda Gates' chart, but we're going to look at Bill Gates' chart and we're going to go through the karma of when somebody gets divorced. And this is something that I've studied a lot personally because, as a lot of you guys know, I went through a divorce myself 6 years ago. So I know all about that, and also I have personal experience with the planets and houses that are involved when you get divorced. And really, it's like a death. So it's very traumatic, even when it's something that, like if they're agreeing on it and they agree it's the best thing. I can tell you just by looking at his chart, it's a very traumatic thing to go through a divorce. So we're going to take a look at the astrological factors that go on when there's a divorce. And really quick, guys, I'm going to give you guys a quick disclaimer. I use the sidereal zodiac, not the Western tropical zodiac, in my predictions, if you guys are new to this channel. The predictions are mine alone and my interpretation of it, astrological data. And, I'm not speaking for Bill Gates, but, this is just my interpretation of astrological data. And this video is for entertainment purposes only. So also what I want to show you guys real quick is I'm going to get to my presentation. Oh, one more thing, guys. Let's see. Please like and subscribe if you like astrology and you like, politics. I do the charts of famous people like Bill Gates. I do politicians. I was going to do President Biden earlier today before I changed it to Bill Gates. And also, lately, I have been doing a cryptocurrency series where we look at cryptocurrency birth charts and I make predictions based on those. So, guys, like and subscribe to my channel. The next thing I want to show you guys, and we're going to go back to this slide really quick, is I'm really excited to announce that my website is operational. And if you're interested in a reading, go to thorsandalwood.com. I thought I was still on the camera, but go to thorsandalwood.com, and if you put in the coupon code Thor, you just type my name Thor, you'll get 20% off of your reading, and it's good until the end of May. And this is something, I'm thinking about Mother's Day this month, so it's something that you can purchase for one of your family members or just get it yourself and use the coupon code. Let's take a look. I wanted to show you guys really fast. But this is what my website looks like right now. And of course, I'm going to keep updating it and perfecting it more and more. And here's, scroll down a little bit. There's my little kind of bio there. What is astrology? And you guys can book readings on it. So I'm really excited because the old way of doing things was, people would just email me and it kind of seemed a little haphazard, I think people didn't really like that they just couldn't anonymously just check out what kind of readings I have to offer and stuff like that. Let me go back to the presentation because we're going to look at Bill Gates' chart. So the first thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is what kind of planets and houses are involved when somebody gets a divorce. So what triggers a divorce? So usually a divorce can happen during what I found in 4 different cases. So the first case is if you're in a period of K2, that can always signal a divorce. And the reason why we use K2 is because K2 is like he's known as the beheader. He usually removes something from your karmic life script. And, everything is up on the chopping block when you have K2 dasha running. It could be a relationship, it could be a job, it could be, maybe you move from a place and you never return again. So, or it can be a religion, an idea, anything. So K2 can always cause if you're in a K2 period, you can always have something like a divorce. The period, also a period of the second lord. So whatever planet rules the second house in your chart can cause leaving the spouse for a new partner. And so this is like, in this case, it would be like you met somebody new and there's this new budding relationship and you leave your spouse to leave for somebody else. And the reason the second house represents the new marriage. So the seventh house represents your first marriage, and then the second house would represent like a new life partner, a new marriage type situation. The next one we look at is a period of the sixth lord. And usually this is what, a lot of people think of this one, is when you have so much conflict, arguments, discord, fighting, and it just, the couples that eventually they just have a huge argument, and it's just a series of arguments, and they're fighting, they can't get along, and that causes a divorce. And usually if you get a divorce during a period of the sixth lord, it's going to be one of those ones that there's like court battles, custody hearings, fighting over all the division of assets, and that's kind of what divorce it would be. The next one is period of eighth lord, spouse suddenly leaves you, state of shock. So remember, the second lord would be like you're leaving your spouse for somebody, and a period of eighth lord might be you discover your spouse has been, cheating on you, having an affair, and then there's some sort of they suddenly leave or suddenly announce the divorce. And eighth house is the house of shock. So, you could be in an absolute state of shock if you get a divorce during a period of the eighth lord. And so, obviously, you want to check the Vimshatori dashas. Remember the Mahadashas and Bhuktis to confirm if it's one of these periods when you get a divorce. And let me move on to the next slide here. And then the next aspect of a divorce, the next aspect of a divorce when we look in a chart is, if we look at the eighth house in somebody's chart, it will show how you would recover in the event of a divorce. And let me show you guys this slide. What house shows recovery from divorce? The eighth house is joint assets within the marriage. It is the second house from the seventh house. So think about, it's almost like your spouse's second house. So whatever assets they bring to the marriage, it shows assets the spouse brings in a marriage. If eighth house is afflicted, expect the recovery from divorce to be very difficult and painful. If eighth house is good, divorce can go very smooth. So this depends. A lot of times people have eighth houses. There's not any kind of Saturn aspect or Mars aspect, or Saturn or Mars are not in that house. And so the worst one, I think, is when you have like either Saturn in the house or a Saturn aspect to the eighth house, because it can slow things down where the recovery, because Saturn slows things down, delays things, where your recovery would be very long. So if somebody had, Saturn aspect in their eighth house and they got divorced, their recovery could take years. It's one of those stories, maybe financially they're set back extremely, and they have to kind of like regain all that wealth that they lost through the divorce. And let's go to the next slide, guys. Psychic trauma from a divorce, and I like to include this. Marriage is a form of validation. It is the seventh house, one of the four pillars of the chart. The Kendra houses 1, 4, 7, and 10. So there's four forms, big forms in a chart of social validation that we receive. Essentially, when we're looking at social validation, from validation that comes from outside of ourselves, which the yogis tell us, we should get validation from within ourselves. But you're typically looking at, your first house is going to be your body, the way you look. You notice how when people are very attractive, they get a lot of social approval. That's the first house. The fourth house is the type of house you live in. You live in a mansion. You're getting a lot of social approval. Your friends and your family and everybody's approving that you have a big house, a very nice house. Seventh house is going to be your marriage, who you're married to. Maybe you married, if you married up, or you married someone very attractive. That's another form of social validation. And then the 10th house is going to be your career. So it's funny, you know, when you go to parties or whatever, people are always asking, what do you do for your work? Because they're trying to put you in that, they're trying to put you in a social hierarchy so they can kind of judge your position within the social hierarchy. So what do you do for work? Oh, you know, I bust tables at a restaurant versus I'm a high-powered lawyer. Right away, they're putting you in some sort of social category. So anyways, the 7th house of marriage is one of those forms of validation. It is a form of social recognition. Divorce is the opposite. It is often a form of psychic and emotional invalidation. And you got to think, you know, when you're going through a divorce, the trauma on the ego is extreme. I mean, it's somebody essentially rejecting you. So even if it's agreed on, there's still that kind of implicit understanding that you're either rejecting someone else or someone else is rejecting you. And so, you know, with your ego validation, it's not too fun to go through that kind of situation. So now we're going to take a look at Bill Gates' chart, guys, and we're going to kind of try to, you know, obviously he announced he's getting divorced, so it's not like we need to have astrology to know that he got a divorce or he's announcing to get a divorce. But we want to look at, you know, this is going to be from Bill Gates' perspective of this divorce that's happening. So let's go take a look. And right away, guys, he was born October 20th, 1955, 2105 in Seattle, Washington. And I believe that's still where he lives. Gemini ascendant, we already know that, you know. He got into computers and all types of things like that. We got to use your mind and be very analytical. His current Mahadasha is Mars. December 15th, 2018 to December 15th, 2025. And we're going to go to his chart, guys, and go take a look at that. So let's go ahead and take a look at Bill Gates' chart. And here it is. And one of the things so he's in this Mahadasha of Mars that he entered in 2018. So 2018 all the way till 2025, I believe, 2025. And if you look where his Mars is in the 4th house, right here. But we really want to take a look at is rulership. Oh, let me fix this a little bit. Is Mars rules the 11th house right here, and then it rules the 6th house. And notice Rahu's there in the 6th house. So really, right away, you can see that you can see, guys, that the origin of this karma, it really started 3 years ago in 2018 when he entered this Mars Mahadasha. And 6th house is usually considered the house of divorce, even though there's different types of divorce. And interesting that he has a Rahu there, which could show that he actually, you know, for a few years now, he was having a desire to initiate this divorce. Now, I don't know Melinda Gates' chart, but it looks like on his part with Rahu, and remember, Rahu is like a desire. So it could be that there was a lot of arguing, fights, and things going on because 6th house and Rahu's exaggerating the 6th house. So again, let's take a look at that. It's pretty intense right there. You know, this is all about, you know, arguments, and, you know, Rahu's amplifying that conflict there. So, I mean, that's an issue there. Let me clean this up a little bit, guys. But, oops, and I kind of put that back up. All right. But, you know, 6, obviously, you know, but we're going to look more into the bhukti of what's going on as well. Let me go back to the slides here. And we're going to look at, okay, so he, obviously since 2018, he's been thinking about this divorce, but, you know, what's really triggering, why now, you know? So let's go back to this, and I'm going to show you guys, you know, as of divorce announcement today, May 3rd, 2021, Bill Gates is in Mars-Jupiter period. However, notice that he enters Mars-Saturn within 4 days. So, like, if we go back to the chart, so he's currently... Oops, I pulled up the wrong window here. Let's go back to the chart here. So he's currently in Mars-Jupiter, which I wouldn't really, Jupiter rules the 10th house here and the 7th house here. So I was like thinking that typically to me wouldn't be like, oh, that's causing the divorce per se. But you notice that within a few days, he's entering this Saturn period, ninth and eighth house right here is what Saturn rules. It's right here. Saturn's right there. So I'm tending to think, this is the announcement right here. And when you're running these buktis, guys, so let me put a little illustration you. So here's when he was in Jupiter right here. Jupiter. And then this is when he's entering Saturn, okay? You notice if you were to document this, there's kind of like a bridge point between the buktis. So typically when you enter a new Mahadasha or a new bukti, it isn't like on May 7th, he's just all of a sudden that day, it just changes like that. There's a blending. Usually there's overlap. And usually a month or two before you're going to enter the new bukti, the new bukti's energy starts coming online. So it's not a big surprise that in 3 days, 3-4 days, he's entering the Saturn bukti with the 8th house, which shows this kind of divorce energy, and this it's kind of a devastating energy, and it shows a lot of shock there. And the shock, he also has Saturn transiting the 8th house, which could show there's even kind of like this delayed slow motion shock that's taking place. And let's go back to the chart really fast and clean it up. So, I mean, it's like his chart, if you look at it, it's just like he's in Mars Mahadasha. He's got his 6th house activated, and he's entering the Saturn period, which is 8th house being activated. So you're just seeing that it's just not a great time for Bill Gates right now. And I forgot to show you guys the dashas right here. But if you look, he entered this Mars period. He entered Mars in 2018 right there. And then this Mars-Saturn period, which just starts in a few days, that's kind of indicative of what's happening right now. I do predict, though, when he enters this Mercury period at, about a year from now, a little over a year from now, I think that, this thing will be mostly behind him by then. Because, Mercury rules the 1st and the 4th house. So it's pretty shocking. And then he's got Saturn transiting the 8th house of Capricorn, and we'll talk about that, which, is not good. It's slowing down this process of divorce. That's why, some divorces are pretty fast. People agree on a divorce, and, within 6 months, everything's done. They move out, and things are pretty cleanly split. But this kind of shows that this might be maybe because there's a lot of assets. I mean, he's one of the richest men in the world. And so there's a lot of division. There's a lot of lawyers involved. There's a lot of division of assets taking place. And that's probably part of it. A lot of it, actually, not part of it. And we're going to go on to the next one. Effects of 8th Lord Saturn. And we'll go back. Effects of 8th Lord Saturn right there. This bukti points to the shock of the split. Saturn's rulership points to the isolation being experienced. Also, Saturn is currently transiting the 8th house for the next year. This will tend to slow the pace of the divorce process. Things need to be worked out. Lots of assets to divide. Process should be complete by April 2022, especially when Saturn changes signs into Aquarius. Saturn shows social judgment upon the personality. And even though, he's a very famous person and probably people are probably not thinking much about it, it does show, at least in his, because the astrology chart is going to show the perspective that he has. So he's going to be feeling very isolated. He might be feeling judged, at least from the people around him. Now, we really don't know his family dynamics and, his friends. We only know, the guy that we see who runs the Bill Gates, former head of Microsoft. Now he's the charitable guy going around the world. But, this shows it could be very isolating on him. And, going through a Saturn period like this, it's not going to be fun by any means. What's really interesting is if we go, switch to another slide for you guys is, what really triggered this besides the dasha. A lot of times there's a transit that triggers the specific karma. And so remember, guys, the Rahu transit to Taurus, September 22nd, 2020 through April 12th, 2022. It transits the 12th house. It's usually associated with losses. Divorce is a loss and ending, financial losses as well. Notice that Rahu and Ketu are both transiting the karmic nodes. This was the trigger that pushed the situation to divorce. Very karmic situation. And let me show you something, guys, real quick. We're going to go back to the chart here. So one of the things you want to notice is that, oops, I'm trying to find the chart, guys. Give me a second here. Let's clean that up. So if you notice, Rahu is transiting the 12th house, and then Ketu is transiting. It's a reversal of what's actually happening. So the karmic axis right here, everybody has it. So it's the karmic axis in his natal chart. And then you got to remember, he's got transiting Rahu right here. He's got transiting Ketu. And usually when you have the nodes crossing your natal nodes in a chart, it's usually a very karmic time. Usually when you see that, a lot of times when you see like the nodes crossing over the nodes, that's actually when you can predict a marriage. So if somebody was running, say, the period of Venus, or they're running a period of the 7th house, and then you see the transiting nodes going over their nodes, that's exactly how you would predict a marriage in somebody's chart. And in this case, it's a reversal. You're predicting a divorce. There's a divorce that's happening. Let's go back to the presentation. And that's actually the end of the presentation for now, guys. So it's not really, and what's really crazy in Bill Gates' chart and what I see, in 2025, he's going to be entering Rahu Mahadasha. And his Rahu is in the 6th house. And he's such a huge public figure and he's so powerful. It makes me wonder, because this whole time, this whole pandemic started when he entered his Mars Mahadasha. Within a couple years of him entering Mars Mahadasha, which activates his 6th house, and Rahu's in the 6th house. And, Bill Gates has been always into this, warning of the pandemic, warning of pandemics. And then I see Rahu's going to be running in 2025. It makes me wonder, is there going to be something else that's happening by 2025? And, that's yet to be seen. But if I look at his chart, there might be some sort of medical crisis happening in 2025, at the end of 2025, which is kind of scary to think about. Because, if I was just looking at someone's chart, I probably wouldn't think much of it, except, their involvement with having medical issues and things like that. But this is like a very powerful person's chart entering Rahu in the 6th house in 2025. So we'll see what happens then. Anyways, guys, that's what I have for you today about, and this news, I decided to do it because, it is important to look at things that, astrology charts can predict divorce. They can predict marriage. It can predict divorce. It can predict promotions. It can predict job loss. There's all types of things that your individual karma, you still have free will, but some things are fated. And this situation with this divorce seems rather fated, especially since the karmic nodes are involved. And anyways, guys, if you guys had any questions either about, Bill Gates' chart, or if you have questions in general, I'm more than happy to talk about them. And like some people they love Bill Gates, some people they hate him. And to me, like no matter what, you're going through a divorce, it's not like a happy, great thing. So that's why I kind of have a somber attitude about this, because it's not like, yay, someone's going through a divorce. So whether you love them or whether you hate them, there's a lot of people in the light worker community, they're not too fond of them. But that's okay. let's see if there's any other questions in the chat or anything. So that was my presentation today. I think tomorrow we're going to go take a look at another cryptocurrency, something maybe a little more happy. By the way, guys, Ethereum is going off the charts right now. Today is at May 3rd, 2021. Ethereum is going crazy. Yeah, so Colleen, yeah, it's not known as a it's like a reversed, it's like a reverse Rahu return. I mean, but it's K2. So anytime you have those nodal returns, which is going to be, it usually takes 18 years for Rahu to transit all the houses of the zodiac. But as far as like just having your nodes like K2 intersect with your natal Rahu, that's going to take what, 9 years? So, almost about every 9 to 10 years you have a nodal return. And usually that's when some very karmic events happen and unfold in your life. So anyways, that's kind of weird that, the karmic nodes are usually involved when you get married, and then, they're involved usually when you get divorced, because usually that's when something karmic happens. So anyways, guys, I think that we're going to conclude the video for now. Thank you guys for showing up, and check out my new website if you get the chance. And we're going to probably do another cryptocurrency video tomorrow, but I'm going to still kind of following Is It Bad? Oh, Colleen, you have it coming up. It's not bad. It's actually not always, it's not bad. So, Colleen, it just usually means that there's going to be something very big, life-changing in your life around that time. Colleen, is it going to be happening when Rahu enters Aries? In April of 2022, is that when you're going to have your nodal return? I'm seeing Colleen had a question about she has a nodal return happening. Reversed, yeah. So that means, when Rahu or Ketu enter Aries in your chart, it usually just means that there's going to be something big happening in your life. It's not always bad. Like I said, people can be having a nodal return and get married. People can have a nodal Taurus 11 degrees. Okay, so you're kind of in the middle of it right now. So probably, depending on what house is it in, by the way. What house is Rahu in? So Taurus, but it also depends what Mahadasha and Bhukti you're running. Of usually what kind of change is going to happen. So there's probably going to be some sort of big change for you during that time. But like I said, it's not bad. It could be you get promoted. It could be that you move to a different place. Usually something big. Third. Sometimes it could be that you start a third house has to do with small business, communications, siblings. Could be something with your siblings. But it doesn't mean something bad. I just see the nodal return as just there's going to be some karmic events that happen. So guys, I think that's it for now. So yeah, anytime you guys are having a nodal return, whether your natal Rahu is going to conjunct transiting Rahu, or your natal Rahu is going to conjunct transiting Ketu, that's usually watch that 18-month period, and there's going to be some big changes that happen in your life. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to be it for today. I want to wish you guys very many blessings during this time of change. I wish you namaste, guys. Many blessings to you guys. And I will see you guys in the next video, which is going to be tomorrow at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time.